Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Travis King at Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by David Chiapoco, Global VP of Marketing at Equiem. David, what's going on, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Travis. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today you're going to be sharing, a little bit about your process and journey for, how you've taken Equiem's team from zero to this growth stage that you guys are currently operating in. And would love to give everyone a little bit of context and for you to share with listeners a little bit about yourself and what you and the team at Equiem are up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I actually just came back from, as you know, a week of intense eventing, I guess. We had a major conference last week, the Cretex. So I've literally refined this pitch and explanation of Equiem over the last couple of days. However, it's a completely different audience. So I'm gonna talk about Equiem to someone that doesn't know about real estate whatsoever. So we work in the commercial office vertical in real estate. And our platform is what you call a tenant experience platform. What that really means is, as a landlord, your main prerogative is to attract tenants and keep them in your commercial office. That's how you make money. Over the last, I would say, decade, there's been an arms race with landlords to attract and outcompete the market to attract tenants to their buildings over the other competition. And so the latest trend that we've kind of spearheaded is called Tenant Experience. And what that really means is adding amenities and services to your building, everything from lockers. You might see this in your own office buildings, lockers, dry cleaning, food and beverage, fitness classes, you name it. Landlords today are competing over that and adding value to their buildings to attract their tenants. We provide that platform. So we have an app, a tenant experience app that we customize for landlords that we can add in whatever amenities and services they want to offer to their tenants. We run that for them so they don't have to do a lot of the operational costs of running services and amenities. We deliver that to their tenants and their tenants get it for free as a value add. We also do the engagement, so all the hard marketing. We're basically a full marketing agency. We do event management, content editing, strategy, you name it, to deliver all of that to landlords. So they don't have much to worry about. They just need to think about their strategy and we deliver it for them. As I told you prior, we started off in Australia 8 years ago. We had a team of 2. I was the second employee then. And we've been in a privileged position to grow the company to about 200 globally, from 1 country in Australia to now 3 markets with offices in the US, UK, and Australia, and also Manila. So I've been in a privileged position to kind of see the company grow in every stage, and as a marketer grow and knowledge as well, and work with a lot of people, and actually see an industry grow, prop tech that is from nothing to what it is now, which is one of the hottest verticals in the tech sphere.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that context. Super helpful to, get that background and kind of hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, no problem.
So diving into the show, I'm very curious, David, what was it like? What sorts of things did you have to do early on to get Equium's strategies and marketing campaigns off the ground, like what did you do?
Well, to be honest, this is one of the main things, like the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, Travis, is I really wanted to help other marketers out there who might be going through this journey. I know how hard it is sometimes to find people or just advice on different stages because you're so knee deep in it. So yeah, in terms of the first stage, and I'm talking about bootstrap stage, like literally when there's like two of you, a team of 5. If I could distill it to one thing that we did right, and that is basically to focus on your first customers. Your actual marketing resources in that first couple of months really should be, once you have your first customer, and assuming you've done your foundational customer research and product design to find your customer problem, product fit, all that stuff. Once you have your first customer, the first thing you really have to do is focus on that first customer. All your marketing resources should just be to focus on making sure that customer loves your product, understanding where things aren't working, helping your product team, which is literally the guy next to you probably, to figure out the next feature and how to improve it. And then when things are going well, utilize that first customer as your first case study to fuel your next customer. And then on the other side, I would say 80% of your resources should be on just that, literally making sure that first customer is happy. And then the other side, you should have a hustler, as they say. And really, you should just be honing your pitch at this stage and making sure it's tight, that your messaging is on point. And that really comes down to also creating a loop between your first customer, understanding how they kind of describe your product, understanding why they got you in the first place, because they're the early adopter. Use their language to attract your next customer, and then just hone that pitch in the first couple of months, and then hopefully you nail down your next customer, and maybe even get the attention of an investor or two.
So it sounds like focusing on your first customers and ensuring you have some sort of product market fit, and then building upon that each step of the way.
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't even have a full-time dev team when we started. We were literally testing ideas as we went through. So from one pitch, you would discover, oh, hey, if you guys had this feature, then we would be super interested. We would literally have a loop where our CEO, Gab, and I would sit down and we would mock up the next kind of idea, and then we would pitch that back to them or to the next person. And we kind of created an agile quasi product management loop. And then eventually we got to a place where, it made sense and people were like, yeah, that's the thing we wanted. So just being really agile. And obviously a lot of people focus, I don't know, I've seen people focus on their branding at this stage, and your brand, your website, your quality of your website, it doesn't matter at this point. You should just focus on your current customers and honing that pitch and messaging.
Got it. So no, that makes so much sense, especially for the early stage bootstrapped listeners, or the people that might be working with smaller teams right now that only have, one or two, maybe even not even a full-time marketing resource on their team at the moment. So
yeah,
definitely really love that bootstrap stage mindset that you just took us through.
That's it.
And as we move down to, I guess, to the second part of kind of like your journey, what sort of things did you do differently at, now you went through bootstrapping, now you guys are in, I guess, startup mode, if you will, and you have a couple of customers. Could you talk to us a little bit about how that differs from the early stage you just mentioned?
Yeah, no problem. I don't know how common this is, but one thing I would recommend marketers, or it's probably your head of design, or it's as you said, a lot of people are doing multiple roles at this stage of the company. One thing that we went through is I effectively became a product manager at this stage, and I would advise marketers at this stage to do at the very least some research and education on how products are designed. I went through like a 10-week course with a company just to learn, and I had like a degree or whatever certificate in it, and I met a whole bunch of other product managers. Even though I wasn't a full-time product manager, it really helped understand the theory, which is which is common now, but back then, 7 years ago, it wasn't, which is, you need to talk to your customers, and it seems basic now, and understand how their pain points, and then, arranging your messaging against that, because you really at this stage, this is your opportunity to really refine not just product market fit, but your company customer fit, which is kind of how to create your messaging to fit what your target market is actually speaking internally, to make them understand very quickly your value proposition. So this is unusual, but I basically became a product manager. I looked at how products are designed. I looked at tickets. I looked at prioritizing features. I worked with the product team very closely. And what this really helps you is, at this stage, is to create a feedback loop between everyone that's dealing with your customers. So that's your support team, your accounts team, your sales teams, and to be in consistent conversation with these guys to basically continue to refine your messaging out in market. At this stage, I would super highly advise everyone to create the foundations to just build a key understanding of your customers. I think that's paramount. It's foundational. It's true. This is your chance to really understand and map out your buyer process, your buyer influencers. You don't have a lot of competition right now at this stage. So this is your opportunity to really understand the full buyer journey, figure out, you can start building your funnel, figure out where your customers are spending most of their time. This is a nice window, and you should take advantage of this window. It'll probably only last about a year or so if you're doing well in the market with a lot of demand or potential. So take advantage. And my main advice is to really deep dive into your customer understanding and their process.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. You probably already know that we think you should start a podcast if you haven't already. But what if you have and you're asking these kinds of questions? How much has our podcast impacted revenue this year? How's our sales team actually leveraging the podcast content? If you can't answer these questions, you're actually not alone. This is why Casted created the very first content marketing platform made specifically for B2B podcasting. Now you can more easily search and share your audio content while getting greater visibility into the impact of your podcast. The marketing teams at Drift, Terminus, and here at Sweetfish have started using Casted to get more value out of our podcasts, and you probably can too. You can check out the product in action at casted.us/growth. That's casted.us/growth. All right, let's get back to the show.
Got it. Love that, because it definitely is an unconventional way to get what you need. And I'm not sure how many people are thinking outside of the box, like you just mentioned, and becoming another role and going and get the actual training to where you took a 10-week course to learn a skill in an area that you typically wouldn't, but you knew it would actually add value to what you were doing on a day-to-day. So kudos to you for doing that, David.
Yeah, no, it was interesting for sure. And it really helps you talk to the product team as well.
Right. Because that way you're learning how to speak their language mainly through the class. And then if you don't, you're in the room with those people on your team. So then they can also help you through the process as well. So it's kind of like a double tongue twister. You're learning twice, because you're learning it in class, but then you're also doing it in practice at work. So you're going to be able to learn and understand, that topic of product marketing and being a product manager to X versus only taking a course or only being in the room. So really love that. And as we wrap up and get, to the final stage, what are you doing now differently that you weren't doing in those first two stages?
So I think the main thing in this stage, which is your high growth stage, and this is when you're starting to see competitors. For us, we're in 3 countries now, and each country has their own set of competitors. To me, and I don't know how many marketers in my industry believe in this as strongly, but I strongly advise in the importance of messaging at this stage. Messaging is key, in my opinion, and brand and messaging are interconnected. Brand's kind of the overall feeling that you want your customers to feel about your products or services. Messaging is the words component. It's the copywriting. If you want to distill it to something as simple as that, but it's the strategy of conveying your message connecting with your customers, understanding how they speak about your products, about their pain points, and kind of reflecting that back to them. And beyond that, positioning your product or services in their minds in the simplest way possible, whereby, they get it within seconds of going to your website. They get it within seconds of talking to you in a booth, in a conference, or passing by, or looking at your flyer. They understand your value proposition. They immediately want to talk to you. That is one thing that's paramount to me. And I feel like at this stage, when you have competitors, it's more, your competitors are doing your marketing for you to expand, especially if you're creating a new category like we are, something that hasn't existed before. Competitors can only help each other ultimately, because you're promoting your vertical, your new product. So you should really just focus on making the case to your target customer to choose you over your competitors at this stage. And to me, the real weapon in that is a really strong brand and messaging strategy. So we've really invested a lot in that in the last 2 years. We feel that we're still ahead of the game over competitors. And the main reason for that is a superior messaging strategy.
Got it. So brand and messaging are literally the keys here, because when you're creating a new category, like you just mentioned, everyone's essentially building up awareness around the topic and category, but then the way that you get your customers is through your messaging and brand.
I believe so. And also, don't be arrogant in your messaging. Don't assume that people will understand any fancy words you've created. Use simple words. Just reflect how they would speak it. Be humble. And professional always. Anyone you meet, simple things like that at this stage go a long way.
Got it. I love it, David. And so as we wrap up, B2B growth has always been about highlighting tactics, strategies B2B leaders can apply to their own teams in order to achieve explosive growth. So I'd love to hear from you, David. What's a new marketing strategy that your team is currently either trying or thinking about in the near future?
Yeah, no problem. So we're essentially a sales-led company whereby you can't go to our website and buy a product such as other B2B SaaS companies. And that what that creates is a longer kind of sales conversion period. So something I would advise people to look into is new techniques. And I won't distill our ideas in this channel too much, but let's just leave it at exploring ways to shorten our sales conversion with kind of some new digital strategies on that topic. A little bit mysterious, but basically look at your funnel, look at where it's taking a long time to convert, and find ways to kind of shorten that using some novel tactics.
Got it. So you guys are experimenting with how to shorten your sales funnel, because typically you've had a longer sales conversion timeline simply because you're a sales-driven company.
Pretty much, and there's a lot of buyer decision influencers in the last stage. Can you find a way to shorten that final stage in your company? That's my tip.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation, David. If listeners want to stay connected with you or follow up to ask any questions on some of the stuff that you covered, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, no problem. Just find me on LinkedIn, David Chiapoco. I have a very unique last name, so you'll have no issues finding me. Reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
No worries, Travis. Thanks, man.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.